Notre Dame takes on Louisville and a chance for the Fighting Irish to, Joe, let's just call it what it is, to get one back and show the public and the nation that they're still a good football team. They had a bad mishap against Northern Illinois. I understand it's happened to Marcus Freeman before. Now they have a chance against what I think is still a pretty good Louisville team that they can redeem themselves. However, they worry the manure out of me, meaning Notre Dame, because it's not – I look at this Louisville team, Joe, I see the same kind of tenacity and forthcoming that I saw when they played Notre Dame last year, brother. Brother, they play hard, they play fast, they play physical, and if they're wrong, it doesn't matter. They're going full speed, one direction. But I don't – when I look at this game on paper, though, Joe, I'm looking at it and saying, man, Notre Dame, they're better. They're the better football team. But, man, I got to tell you, I don't know if they want it more than a team like Louisville does. I got to be real with you.
That's where I'm – look, as a Notre Dame fan, I mean, this is what stresses me out about this game. And I know this is going to be a game that I'm going to hate watching. Like, this is going to really, really pain me. This is a situation where you have an opportunity to beat Louisville and to beat them handedly and to beat them at home and to get revenge for what they did to you last year. And it all comes down to I'm going to say this a million times over with Marcus Freeman. It all comes down to the preparation in the week leading up to the game. The emphasis needs to be at practice is that these guys took from you what could have been a special season last year or just a good season last year. They made you guys look terrible the way that they blew past you in the second half. They need to take all of that energy and frustration out on them the same way that they did against Purdue. If they accomplish that, yes, they are the more gifted team on the field. They're more stout on both lines of scrimmage. They're the better rushing team. They can do exactly what Michigan did, but throw the ball maybe a little bit more by grinding them out and dominating the time of possession. They have all of those things going for them, especially against a team that is so heavily built through the transfer portal. They have the ability to win this game. But Blake, it all comes down to is that Louisville naturally is a team that smells blood in the water, and when they think that anybody's a little bit off, and if Notre Dame comes in a little bit slow, not firing on all cylinders, they're going to take advantage of them. This Louisville team is not one to be trifled with, and if I'm a Notre Dame fan, be worried. Be worried until the first quarter is done, and you know which team is more prepared, and you'll know how this game is going to finish.
Funny, when you were saying all that, it made me go back to how I felt 2 weeks ago for my LSU Tigers playing South Carolina.
It feels very similar. You're battling through some issues, and things aren't really working to the degree that you would be hoping that they are, and you're hoping that they get fixed in a short amount of time. It's just very similar.
Joe, I got to be real with you, man. I know Notre Dame's got a really good secondary. I get that. Joe, Louisville has 4 wide receivers that have 2 touchdowns or less, or 2 touchdowns or more. Chuck has gone in there and spread the ball around, dude. Look, man, Ja'Cory Brooks, dude can play, man. Dude can really play. Joe, they're gonna have some athletes, man. I don't want to say this because when I say it, Notre Dame fans blow up and get mad. I'm just going to tell you, Joe, they can test your secondary. They can test you. And if you ain't ready, Ja'Cory Brooks is going off. So Ben Morrison, in my humble opinion, is one of the best corners in the country. But what they have done with Brooks multiple times is take him off of boundary receivers, put him in the slot, and Joe, he's been going off. I mean, and that's the part that I look at Chuck and say, look, man, and maybe Brom did find something. Maybe this kid can make really good decisions. Georgia Tech's a really good football team, Joe, in the sense of that they are very physical. And you know what? They're like, oh, you want to be physical? We're going to pop you in the mouth. Here's the thing that I look at this, though, that scares me for Louisville. Joe, Georgia Tech, that D-line, out-physical Louisville in the running game, they didn't get anything going. I understand that there's some issues in the running game going on with Louisville at the current moment. Joe, they didn't look good at all running the football against Georgia Tech last week. And if there is a massive mismatch for Notre Dame here, it's going to be their D line versus that Louisville O line. They have not been good, in my humble opinion, at getting vertical in the running game. However, they've had some situations, meaning Louisville, where if they get one shoelace that doesn't get touched and the running back doesn't fall down, they're getting vertical sometimes, but that's a massive advantage, Notre Dame, your D-line versus their O-line.
Right now, they have 16 tackles for loss in the year, and they're only allowing 3.6 yards per carry. So they can easily win that battle against the run and completely remove Louisville's rushing attack. I push back on what you're bringing up here with Notre Dame's secondary against those receivers. Notre Dame's secondary is more talented than that Louisville receiver room. I think the Christian.
Hold on.
No, wait. I'm not saying that you said that. I'm not saying that you said. I'm just elaborating here. Christian Gray has been a huge emerging, underrated star for that secondary, the way that he's played and the plays that he has made with the ball in the air. Adon Schuler has emerged as a young player for them that has been great.
You haven't faced a wide receiver core this good yet.
But okay, I understand that. I have faith, though, watching these guys played, that they're able to. This Louisville receiving group is good, but they're not like top 10, 15 receiving unit good.
No, okay. I didn't say that, but they have playmakers.
Well, what I was going to finish this point with, though, where Notre Dame loses this football game and where those big, long receptions that they had against Georgia Tech break through is if Notre Dame's offense keeps getting off the field too quickly and Notre Dame's defense gets tired. That's basically what happened against NIU, where they were on the field so damn much. There were so many short, quick drives by Notre Dame that the defense couldn't keep stopping NIU. Especially at the end of the game. They were gassed on that final drive. They had no energy. So the Notre Dame's offense wins and loses this football game. Like, that's all this comes down to. That defense is good enough to completely remove Louisville's offense. But if they're out there too damn much, eventually those plays are going to break out. And those long completions to Ja'Cory Brooks are going to happen like they did against Georgia Tech.
Joe, how bad's Riley Leonard?
He hasn't been great as a passer. He's been great as a runner.
Well, then you need to run him. And I know he's been hurt. I know, what was his non-throwing hand?
No, I believe it was a shoulder.
Or shoulder, non-throwing shoulder. Joe, he's not good throwing the football, brother. And I question what happens when you have an opponent that is going to go in there and do everything they can to stop the run or stop the run because they have no fear of you throwing the football. And I know that you have some receivers. I know Bo Collins had a touchdown last week against a really bad Miami of Ohio team. I'm going to continue to tell you this. This is what Notre Dame's going to constantly see, and Mike Denbrock's going to see. You're going to have teams stack the box and dare Riley Leonard to throw the football. And if you don't give Jeremiah Love more touches, I think Denbrock needs to come into question of what he's doing. The kid has had another game where he had 11 carries, 60 yards, and a touchdown. You better go in that game giving him the football, throwing him things in the passing game, which Mike doesn't like throwing the football to running backs, man. He doesn't. He does not. As someone who covered him for 2 years, he is not going to throw a running back the football out of the backfield unless it's a hot check by the quarterback. They got to get him the ball in space. But I'm telling you now, teams are gonna play you like that. Joe, I'll give you $20 in a Subway sandwich if that's not how Louisville comes out.
They're going to. I mean, it's exactly what
they're going to crowd the line of scrimmage and make you beat them through the air. And I got to be real with you, Joe. If they're successful in doing that, you're going to lose the football game because Riley Leonard cannot put a team on his back and get you to a situation where you can win a game throwing the football. And be real with you, well, let me ask you this. Do you think Scott Angeli gives you the better chance to win?
Steve Angeli. I'm not ready to go down there.
Scott. That's like the 19th time I've called him Scott.
I don't know. That's a good question. He's a Jersey guy, by the way. He's from Westfield, New Jersey. I'm not ready to go there yet. I'm just not. I think it's a bit too reactive to make that.
I agree.
To make that swap.
I agree. Look, we'll see. I'm going to tell you this. because I know sometimes when it's your team and you're a fan of it, sometimes, and I have this problem all the time. We can't see the forest through the trees. You should win this football game. But losing NIU makes me skittish as hell to think that you can accomplish what you need to accomplish. So
I completely agree. It's a perfect example. Last year, the same stuff happened. Louisville was one of the games where they fell asleep when they needed to be ready. One would argue, though, that going up against a team that embarrassed you the way that they did last year, that they would be motivated this week in practice.
Joe, I know you're going to disagree with this, and I don't really want to get into this argument and fight again. If they come out flat against a ranked opponent with their season on the line, what does Marcus Freeman have to motivate them this week for? With your season on the line, you need to do.
You shouldn't have brought this up. It's on him. No. A head coach's job is to motivate and rally his team.
Okay. Well, let me say this. Let me tell you what the cultures look like at other programs. The teams that win, you can't see it right now in the studio, but I have all 7 national championships for LSU baseball and football right here. You know what all of those teams had? When the lights came on and it was everything brightest, they didn't need a head coach to tell them what they needed. Hold on, please, dear Lord. They did not need a head coach to tell them against a ranked opponent with their season on the line that they got to be motivated, locked in, and focused for this game.
I'm not saying that some sort of switch needs to be flipped by the coaching staff. But
flipped by the players.
Okay, but the way that the players perform is based on the intensity of practice led by the coaches. If players look flat, it is on the coaches. There's 100 guys on the team. You're telling me they recruited 100 guys who don't care? That's not true.
You with your season on the line, then you don't need to be there, and y'all need to start recruiting other players that are better at culture and going out there and knocking somebody's shit in the dirt.
You're looking at this way too linearly. There's no. It's not. There's no. You're either motivated or not motivated. There is a spectrum to this.
Nick Saban, who's the greatest coach of all time, said this week on College Game Day. The best teams that he ever had were player led, and that he was able to get out of the way, and they were able to govern themselves on what they.
Okay, but he would still scream at his guys and motivate his guys. He still had an attention to detail. It's not like he was walking into practice and not doing anything.
This guy right here, Tony Dungy, never screamed at Peyton Manning. It didn't make him less of a coach.
Blake, they didn't have this problem. They're one of the few teams in the country that has this problem that's supposed to be good. Teams that don't give a shit, it comes down to head coaches showing up to practice and not having the same level of intensity on a week-to-week basis and not taking things seriously. Marcus Freeman even admitted it. He even admitted after they lost to NIU that it came down to him not having the attention to detail necessary for them to have beaten NIU because they weren't looking past them.
That's not what I said about NIU. If your players against a ranked opponent who beat you last year and you're not ready to go out there and get revenge, that's not on anybody but yourself.
I have been on teams with bad coaching staffs when I was in college.
You think Ron Roberts is a good coach?
But look, we had teams where when I was in college, the coaches were not pushing guys as hard as they needed to. The whole point,
and that's on them.
It comes down to that these guys, they're young men. Yes, you need to rally around one another and have leaders on the team. I'm sure that there are leaders on the team, but there's one person that you look towards every single game, and that is your head coach. If your head coach is not preaching the same level of focus and intensity on a week-to-week basis, that stuff trickles down. It's not like he's showing up to practice saying, oh, guys, it's NIU, who gives a shit? No, he might be walking out late to practice. He might not be yelling and pushing his guys. He might not have the same level of juice and aggressiveness. Every week needs to be the same. If we walked onto a Nick Saban practice
that I've ever had with you, brother, that's all I'm going to say.
Because I never outwardly say this to you, but this is one of the few takes that you're wrong. Like, I completely firmly believe, because this is Marcus Freeman's fault. They have never had this problem in the years where they were shit with Charlie Weiss.
Joe, I love you to death. If the greatest coach of all time said the best teams that he had were player led, he knows more than you do about what it is to be a head coach. Sorry.
But I can guarantee that there are stark differences between the way.
Hold on. If the best coach of all time knows how to coach, he knows better to coach than me and you do.
Obviously, completely obviously. But that doesn't mean he wasn't showing up to practice, not saying a word. He still was motivating his team.
I say that.
You're implying that.
No, what I said is if somebody's Joe, if Marcus Freeman's got to go up to Howard Cross and saying you're playing like a bitch at practice today, then it's on Howard Cross if he's not motivated.
They're 20-year-olds. They're going to have practices where they don't show up focused. And if your coaching staff is not getting on those guys' ass to get focused, it is their responsibility.
All right.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code RuffinoJoe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.